You never forget being a little child and being thrown into a police van, looking behind you and seeing your life moving into the distance, and you don't see that life again. This is for those kids. My name's Sandra Hill. I'm an elder and custodian of the Wadandi people, the Pibbleman people and Minang people. I'm an artist. My work is about my culture. It's telling our stories, like Stolen Gen stories. I'm fourth generation Stolen. I was taken in 58. How do you find out? How do you get the information when the welfare's done everything they can to stop you from getting that information? They've cut your files out. My great-grandfather was taken when he was 5. My grandfather, Lewis Culgarrett, was taken by the New Norcia monks when he was a young toddler. My grandmother lost every one of her kids during that period. I was taken with my 2 sisters, Barbara and Trish, and my little brother, Daryl.
I suppose for us it's unfinished business. It's taking up the challenge. It's looking at ways to heal the traumas of the many people that have been affected by the Stolen Generation movements. I'm Jim Morrison. I'm Managing Director of Yokai Healing Our Spirit, and you are in my office. The Native Affairs Department was located here between 1922 and 1945, led by A.O. Neville. That's him there if you want his face. We called him Neville the Devil. This office is part of our history. So that's where the lab, he had a lab down here where we experimented on animals. It's quite an eerie little spot down there. Not a nice spot. A.O. Neville, the Chief Protector, initiated the Breed Out the Colour policy between 1930 and 1960 whilst he was in this office. It was genocide. It was racial engineering way before Hitler. It meant that fair-skinned children or children with non-Aboriginal ancestry were removed from their families. Hence the Stolen Generations. When children were taken to missions, they weren't able to practice their culture or speak their languages. Right up until 1970, where children were removed. You know, we're talking thousands of children being removed right across the country. And it's still being played out today, where 57% of the West Australian Aboriginal population have been removed or descendants. And that's the biggest block, I suppose, in the country, and that's purely because of where this man operated, how he operated in this state, and how it impacted on mostly West Australian Aboriginal people. It's quite obvious it's still impacting on us today because there's a very high percentage of our children in care today, and it's well over 50%. It all relates to dysfunction, it relates to ongoing trauma that exists in our communities. It's about children really growing up not knowing who they were, where they came from, and not being able to practice their culture.
So many of our people can't talk about being stolen. It's really hard to deal with life at an equal level with everyone else because you're always a step behind everyone. You can't get on with life when you have no identity. When I was in the orphanage, so many people I know were abused. Unbelievable how many. I was force-fed all this food and would throw up, and this is when I was 6.5. And they'd hit you and beat you. I wet the bed once in my entire life, and put the wet sheet over your head and all the kids would parade past you. I've worked on finding family, finding out the truth, and that's given me a lot more resilience, a lot more strength. I live in Balingup, Wadandi country, my dad's country. Yeah, this is the place I want to be.
I remember back in the 60s when a lot of Nyungar and Aboriginal people lived here, this was like a meeting place. Each and every time I come across that bridge and I'm coming into here, I feel like my court's at home. I'm comfortable here. This is my home where I grew up. And what we had noticed that over time is that it's always been a place of coming back, even when we were moved out of East Perth and into other areas throughout the 70s and that stuff. We'd always come back here, and when we're looking for family or looking for someone to meet up, we'd always come back to here. So this place has always been sort of connected to Nyungar people in that sense. And there's also another level of that, and that's with a lot of our people that were put into the institutions and the missions. That when they were released, some of them didn't even know where their family come from. They had an idea, or they had their names changed, and they couldn't find their way back. But they knew Nyungar people and Aboriginal people were here.
For a lot of years now, we've been congregating here on Sorry Day. The memorial that's about to be developed will add to it, but give another perspective from an Aboriginal artist's point of view, Stolen Generation artists, and will hopefully strengthen the commemoration and what it means from a truth point of view, because you're hearing far too often that the Stolen Generations was for their own good, or it wasn't the truth, it didn't happen. And that's what we're all about, is really just portraying what is truthful and making sure that people understand that truth. Because it's not taught in schools, it hasn't been part of the school curriculum. So this is why this is really important.
My whole public art career has been moving toward this moment in time. The whole meaning was about bringing them home. Mayas are our traditional dwellings, made from the branches. They were well used and well utilised, and they were refurbished every season. So in the winter we prepared them with new paper bark to make them waterproof. In the summer we'd put new branches over them. They were our homes, they were where we lived. That was our community. I love this, to see the beauty of the realness of it.
I'm Stuart Green. Along with my team here at Big Spoon Art Services, we are realising Sandra's work.
How you've actually engineered it to make it work is mind-boggling. Oh, this is good for my hands.
I think, artwork's in the public realm. It's an interesting area that you've got to work hard at. This sort of dance of us trying to, tease out ideas and trying to figure out what would work.
This is a traditional Maya. I actually made this with Wanang branches, which is peppermint tree, which is the traditional way we do it. You can't get it from a young tree, you can't get it from a very old tree.
All right.
You've got to get it through a middle-aged tree.
The Goldilocks tree, the one that's just the right.
We kind of leapt on the idea of the feathers as being a really strong adjunct to the Mayas.
It's perfect because this is the girls that were taken and this is the boys that were taken. It's collective pain, collective loss, and that unites them.
Then the really interesting thing is trying to figure out, okay, how do we actually, how do we make this? Engineering, construction, fabrication, some sort of methodology for, how to make things well and efficiently. Feathers are designed through evolution to be things that fly. They're incredibly lightweight. They're designed to catch the wind. In terms of engineering, we've got to make them so they do exactly the opposite.
So the whole work is aluminium, which makes for a really good material in terms of it being sort of rust-free, fairly good maintenance sort of qualities. But the only trouble with aluminium is every time you weld it, you lose about 30% of the strength of the aluminium. For such a tall structure that catches the wind, the engineering has been quite complex, and one of the solutions has been that there's actually no welding in this part. These are the reel sticks that are packed into the sand up to halfway, and then a box of sand goes on the top half, and then essentially you can pull the two halves. When you take out the pattern, you're left with the shape that you'll fill with metal.
Oh, they've got an organic look to them, they're branches. And I love the nubs and the lumps.
So it takes the form of 5 myres around a central feature of 6.5 metre tall currick feathers. So they form the central point of focus for celebration, acknowledgement and remembrance.
They've been a part of our symbolism for a long, long time, for many generations, and everyone recognises them. Or Noongars, Kimberley mob, they all know these birds, and I couldn't think of a better way to represent those stolen kids than with these feathers. Yeah. And it's also a beacon. When it's lit, it's a beacon to help them find their way home. Most families were left with nothing but their children's footprints. I didn't go back to my family. These are my footprints as well, and my sisters, my 2 sisters and brother. I know. This is the most important work that I've ever done, out of everything I've done over the last 30 years.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
I'm glad we could help.
The feelings that we need to bring about for significant remembrances or significant events are complex and subtle, and you're not going to encapsulate them all in one work. So you actually need to be subtle about what thoughts are brought into being, and artwork is probably the best way of creating very subtle, very complex passages of thought that change every time you see the work as well. People will hear about it and they'll say, okay, that's where all the stolen mob will go for Sorry Day. I think I might go there and ask some questions. This is for those individuals who are still out there suffering from what was taken from them. This is for them. This is for every single one of them.